The Joe Rogan Experience.
So I check into the Airbnb, and I go into the closet. Like the owner's closet wasn't locked, and I went into the owner's closet. Of course, it's like all Cheerios and cookies and crackers, and I pulled a couple of bottles of these seed oils out, and I did a little post about it because I was like, look at all the heart healthy labels on this,
Right?
And we talked about seed oils last time, but it's and I get attacked a lot for saying that these polyunsaturated fatty acids are bad for you, but a lot of times it's actually not the plant itself; it's the distance from the plant to the table. Right.
Can you explain, because you were explaining the other day to us the process that it takes to turn rapeseed oil, which
First
is
of all,
what
it's
canola
called canola
is.
oil, Joe.
They decided rapeseed was problematic, so they changed it to canola oil. I always thought it was corn oil.
Yeah.
Corn's good for you. Corn oil must be great for you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're using canola oil. Cool.
Peanuts.
Please explain, though, the process, because it's so vile.
It's insane. So rapeseed, canola, is a plant. Essentially you put it in a commercial press, and it will come out gummy. And so to degum it, you use something called hexane. And hexane, if you go to National Institute of Health or National Library of Medicine, you'll see that is a known neurotoxin. It's classified as a neurotoxin. Same as fluoride, right? Which is actually fluorosilicic acid. We get to that later. But so we degum it with hexane. And then you take this degummed oil and you heat it to 405 degrees, which turns it rancid. I mean, there's no mechanism on Earth for temperatures to reach that much, especially plants to encounter those kind of temperatures. So now it denatures, it turns rancid. So now it's putrefied and it smells. So now you have to deodorize it. So we deodorize it with sodium hydroxide. So we degum it with a powerful neurotoxin. We heat it to 405 degrees and turn it rancid. And then we deodorize it with a very powerful carcinogen. And then in some cases, we bleach it and bottle it and put it on the shelf. You ever go to the grocery store and you see the entire grocery aisle? It's all these like Wesson oils or vegetable oils, but they're all exactly the same color. Mm-hmm. Like exactly. They have that same beautiful, clear hue. That's how
they
anything
look super
occurs
healthy
in nature.
No.
If you squeezed 10,000 watermelons into watermelon juice and put it all on the shelf,
They would vary a little bit.
Yeah. But there's no variance there. And so this is a chemically controlled process. And it's, again, it's not back to the polyunsaturated fatty acids per se. It's the pro-inflammatory process that they cause. These foam cells and the inflammation in our arterial wall, which actually calls cholesterol to the site of inflammation. And we blame cholesterol for a lot of the heart disease, atherosclerosis, arterial sclerosis, because it's at the scene of the crime, but it, rarely pulls the trigger. I mean, cholesterol is kind of like a fireman, right? It gets called to the fire to put the fire out.
Right.
And so the theory that if we had fewer firemen, we'd have less fires is kind of absurd. Right, but that's the theory. That's the theory in LDL cholesterol. It's like it might work in California. I could see them passing that legislation.
Yeah.
You know what we need? We need less firemen. But so the theory that if we push down the firemen, which was called to the site of inflammation, meaning we reduce the cholesterol, which was called to the site of inflammation to cause the repair, rather than ask what started the fire, that notion is about to be, I think, blown out of the water by big data. I think you're going to see big data, artificial intelligence, and early detection in the next 5 years are just going to circumvent the entire system.
Do you think there's a possibility of removing food oils from the market?
I don't think that we'll ever replace
food oils, excuse me.
Yeah,
seed oils.
I don't think that we'll ever replace seed oils.
Why not?
I think what's really interesting is the chemical processing. So another really good thing, and I'm helping to author this paper with Callie Means and a bunch of other folks to present it to Bobby Kennedy in looking at the genesis of chronic disease. Because if you and I know lots of people have talked about this on your show, so I won't belabor the point, but if you look at the spending of $4.5 trillion a year, right, on healthcare in the United States, and then you say, well, what do we lead the world in? Well, as of December 6th, we were ranked 66th in the world in life expectancy. We lead the world in morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, multiple chronic disease in the single biome, meaning not just our population has multiple different chronic diseases, but multiple chronic diseases in the same in the same body, because most people don't just have one autoimmune disease, or they're not just hypertensive and diabetic. They're hypertensive, diabetic, and hypothyroid with an autoimmune, usually multiple autoimmune. We lead the world in infant mortality, maternal mortality. And so you got to ask yourself, how is $4.5 trillion a year in spending leading to these kinds of consequences? And very often it's actually not the food, it's the distance from the food to the table. So it's not necessarily the plant, it's what we're doing to process these plants to get them on the table. And so I think what you're going to see is these GRAS guidelines, generally regarded as safe, which is essentially how the FDA decides whether or not you can micropoison the population. So we are allowed to micropoison the population, right? We're allowed to put certain amounts of pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, preservatives.
That is a great way of putting it, too. It's micropoisoning.
Yeah.
So that's really what's happening.
It's exactly what's happening. And a lot of experts will say the dosage determines the poison. And that's largely untrue when you talk about cumulative dose toxicity, meaning if I give you this sandwich and this piece of tuna fish and it has a very small safe amount of lead or mercury, it's probably not going to hurt you, right? But if you don't methylate that metal out of your body and you keep eating that same kind of fish, I mean, nobody got mercury poisoning from a single piece of tuna fish. What they got mercury poisoning from was continuing to eat the same thing over and over and over and over again, and they got a cumulative dose toxicity, which is what a lot of foreign countries use. So in other words, I can't just say if I put, 1 drop of arsenic in this glass, is that going to kill you? It might make you mildly sick, cause an inflammatory process. Maybe it's not going to kill you. But if you drink one of those 5 times a day, 7 days a week, now you're toxic. And that's what's happened to our country. We didn't get here quickly. We got here by slowly stacking these micropoisons.
Right, but is it possible to change all of, whatever we use seed oil for? Is it possible to swap that out for olive oil or beef tallow? Or
Yes.
I know there's some companies doing, Masa makes these great tortilla chips that
Love
are just
Masa.
Organic corn,
Yeah,
tallow.
organic corn,
they
grass-fed
taste
beef tallow.
like it too. Like you feel like you're eating food.
Yeah.
We talked about those Vandry chips too.
Yeah,
Vandy chips. I love those.
I do too. I
They're
would
so
actually
good. It's
brought you
just
some.
potatoes and beef tallow with a little salt, and
Yep.
they're and it tastes like food.
Yeah.
Like when I eat them, I don't feel like a piece of shit. Like if I eat a bag of Doritos, I feel like a fucking loser. Yeah. Even while I'm eating, I'm like, oh, you loser, shut up, Pop My Face. Like, shut up. These are delicious.
You shame yourself. You're
I
like,
do.
Joe, I'm so
I do.
disappointed in you.
But isn't it possible to just replace those, or would it require? Is it one of those things like there's an issue with factory farming? Everybody thinks factory farming is disgusting when it comes to animals. It's vile what they do to chickens and pigs. But is it possible to give everyone cheeseburgers in food deserts without factory farming? Like, have we gotten so far ahead of ourselves that we don't have sustainable regenerative agriculture as an option?
I don't think so at all.
So you think that all the foods, all the salad dressings and all the French fries and all the things that are cooked in food oil, we have enough beef tallow, we have enough olive oil, we have enough avocado oil that we could switch all those things out and everything would be great?
There is no question that we have the capacity to produce these, and we have the capacity to produce them now. I mean, a lot of these farms don't use the bones from these cattle. They don't use the hide from these cattle. They don't boil down the collagen from these cattle, and they certainly are not making the tallow from the fat from the cattle that are being slaughtered.
So there's a lot of tallow that's going to waste.
A lot of tallow, a lot of bone broth, a lot of bones, a lot of cartilage. That's entirely going to waste. And if you look at a lot of countries, they will use the entire animal. They'll boil down the bones. They'll use the hide. They'll use the bone marrow.
It's kind of crazy because there's a big market for bone broth. There's a big market for beef tallow. Why wouldn't they? I mean, they're just wasting money.
I think you have the perception that there's a big market for it because you're kind of in the know.